Hi, everyone, and welcome to the newest episode of I Never Knew Ink, but My Dog Did podcast. It is Wednesday. Happy Hump Day. As always, and I'm just going to be redundant every single time I record, I have a fabulous guest today. His name is Steve Bacon, and I cannot wait to tell you about him. And we already were like jiving right off air, and like I feel like he's my new brother. So this is
That's
gonna be
right.
a this is gonna
That's
be
right.
a really fun, high energy. And he was mad that it was so early in the morning, but I can see he needed this pump. So I'm like his coffee. I'm his coffee today.
I'm going to the gym after this. So come on,
It's
give me my caffeine shot.
all right. Let's get that adrenaline going, baby. Let's go. All right. So Steve has spent the last 17 years sharing his learnings and helping busy and successful entrepreneurs, executives, and celebrities to create balance in their life and reach the next level of success, both professionally and personally. And we know they have to go hand in hand. Steve founded community oriented coaching group Belief Theory in 2015. Belief Theory has used group coaching programs to coach state and local governments, nonprofits, and Fortune 500 sales teams. What? So, because it is I Never Knew, I want you to know where his story starts. So, at 18 years old, he felt very hopeless when he attempted suicide. And this is my favorite thing anyone has ever said about a low point. He said, "When I failed at that attempt, I realized I didn't want to die. I just didn't know how to live." And I think that is fabulous and a great way to say, good morning, Steve Bacon. How are you, my
Good
brother?
morning. Good morning. I typically introduce myself in all my videos and I go, "What up, family? It's your coach, Steve Bacon."
That's what I'm talking about. Talking about. Oh my gosh, I love it. It's like the wrestling thing. Are you ready to rumble?
Exactly. Do you know that's where I got that from?
Of course, I knew that. But
Over 10 years ago, I was watching wrestling because I was a huge wrestling fan. And I said, how do they move these crowds like that? And everybody had like their own tagline. And I was like, I need a tagline. And then one day I got on Facebook like 10 years ago and I was like, "What up, family? It's your boy Steve Bacon." And I just kept doing it and kept doing it and kept doing it. And people are like, "That's annoying." But then after a while,
they
that's
missed
how
it.
people started introducing me. And every time they see me in the streets, they'd be like, "Yo, Steve." I'm talking about complete fucking strangers out of nowhere. So it's been 10 years and I'm still saying it. And it just, that's how people know me now.
I love it. I feel that sometimes the annoying things that I do just catch on and it becomes endearing. So, hey
Absolutely.
listeners, there's your first tip of the day. Go ahead and be annoying and it'll eventually, it'll catch on and people will just get used to it. And I love it.
Yeah.
Stay weird, people. Stay
They'll
weird.
get tired of trying to stop you before you get tired of trying, and then they'll just join in.
That's right. That's right. SMHs. I love them SMHs. Just, I am who I am. So, all right. So since it's I Never Knew, let's start with where were you at your lowest point? Where was this sort of knee moment like, oh man, things have to change for me? Talk to me.
It it wasn't even after the suicide attempt.
Wow.
It was actually after I had got put on probation for 10 years and became a felon at like 19 years old.
Oh my
That was
goodness.
a year or so after the suicide attempt. And so I still didn't know, after the suicide attempt, I still didn't know what to do. Like I realized, okay, I don't want to die, but I still don't know what to do with all this trauma. So I just started doing what any sane, rational human being would do. I started drinking and drinking to get drunk, right?
Yeah.
And found myself in trouble. And then it was after that where I was like, fuck, man, I spent my whole life trying to avoid not becoming this because that's what most of my family is. Right? In and out of jail, drugs, all this stuff. And I'm like, I literally was running away from this and ran dead into it.
Yeah.
Right? And I was like, but I am way too dainty to be doing construction, or I got too much pride to be in fast food. Like this the type of opportunity that comes with being a felon. I was like, nah, that ain't for me. That's not. Mm-mm. And when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And there was a guy named Hank who just came out of nowhere and introduced me to entrepreneurism. And he said, if you change how you see yourself, everything will change. And if you become an entrepreneur, you can write your own ticket. And you don't have to worry about a background check. You don't have to worry about anybody ever. You don't have to worry about it. And he said, but how successful you become as an entrepreneur is completely dependent on who you become as a man. And so he introduced me to personal development and even convinced my probation officer to let me go to conferences out of state. And he just started stuffing Jim Rome and Tony Robbins and Les Brown and Brian Tracy, just started stuffing that stuff down my throat. And no matter how, disrespectful I was, metaphorically, he just held my hand and never let go for like 2 years, like 1 or 2 years. I can't remember, it's so long ago. But point is, it was in that moment when I realized, okay, well, either I'm not going to grow and my future is very bleak, welfare, Section 8, that type of, or I could become an entrepreneur and write my own ticket. And I will do it until, listen to what I said, I will do it until. I'm not going to see how this will work out. I'm going to do it until it works out. And it's been 18 years.
You became a willing prisoner. So, I mean, hear me out on that, because, you think about, your time served, and then you get out and you're like, man, now I feel I'm a prisoner to my circumstance, right? I'm physically free, but I'm not mentally free.
Yeah.
And
not
then,
emotionally, not spiritually.
yeah. And then I was writing like crazy. When the student is ready, the teacher appears. And I love that, because that's the whole premise for me with my life coaching is build it and they will come.
Yeah.
And I just feel like we can't force anything. We can't force this progress, these ideas, this anything on anyone.
Yeah.
And I love that. So the alcohol, I relate to you. It's so funny. Every time I do these podcasts, everybody hears this, repetitively. Again, that annoying trait that I have is to repeat a lot of stuff. My husband says it all the time. He's like, we've heard that story. I'm like, get used to it.
I do it too.
I seriously, you know what? When I have Alzheimer's or dementia, no one's going to even know, because because I already do this.
Damn it. So good.
To be repetitive, I always say when a guest comes in front of me, there is a reason you were drawn to my law of attraction, my energy, because we have a thread of something that connected us. When you said Hank appeared, funny story, every time we go to a Starbucks or somewhere where they have to call your name, my husband uses the name Hank. And his name is Dennis, but he's like, they're not going to say it right. They're not going to spell it right. I'm like, Dennis is not that far out, but he uses Hank. When you said Hank, I cracked up. Then you mentioned the alcoholism. So we had the same situation in my family. My grandfather was not able to handle his alcohol at all. And then I went and I married an alcoholic, and that's why there was domestic abuse, and I went through AA and the whole 9 yards. And I get it. It's not that I love that you said you run into the wall, but really it was like you did what you knew, right?
Mhm.
Subconsciously, like, that's what I know. That's the norm.
Yeah.
That's been my norm. I ran into this wall of norm, and the choice is where you said, I don't want this wall. I'm going to break through this wall. I'm going to walk around this wall, or I'm going to climb over it. So what did you start to do? What did you do when you finally were starting to embrace all these ideas of building the life that you want, being able to create it? What did you start?
Well, it's funny too, because my first book I wrote is called Start Here, right? And the book I wrote is literally for people who were just like me, who were at that turning point, but had no idea where to go next, right? So I wrote a book for those people, right? Here's where you go from here. You do this first, this second, this third, right? And so for me, it was about learning about the human belief system, because you kept getting into these personal development books and they kept saying beliefs, 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 but none of them really broke down what a belief was, right?
Yeah.
How does a belief work, right? They would give like some background, but like no mechanics.
Yeah.
And so I started to really try to understand the human belief system, because they're like, well, if that controls all human behavior, well, then that's what I need to learn first, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then my second quest was, can I get rid of this trauma and not have any emotional connection to this stuff and tell the story like it happened to somebody else? Or do I have to learn to live with it, cope with it, learn the triggers, and have a mechanism to deal with the trigger? Or can I just get rid of the whole trigger?
Mm-hmm.
So that became my magnificent obsession. And what I learned was the belief system and triggers went hand in hand.
Yeah.
So I started going deeper into that. And eventually, I learned how to heal in hours what would take people years, if ever, in therapy, if you just get to the root. The challenge with it for most people is their commitment to being right.
Mm-hmm. Or the identity, the trauma identity of being a victim of it. I found that if I didn't talk about my trauma, or if I didn't keep relating back to my trauma, then who am I? Because that was my identity.
That's what Eckhart Tolle said. Eckhart Tolle, in his book, The Power of Now, he literally says, to the present moment, or to the ego, the present moment is the least important. Your ego is always identifying with the past and drudging it up, because without it, who are you?
Yeah. Yeah. And it also becomes a way to connect to people too. It's like, oh, you have a trauma story? Hey, I have a trauma story. Let's talk.
The challenge with it, though, is the story that you tell yourself is false from the beginning. Let me tell you why. If you were to wake up today with full amnesia, how would you figure out who you are? Yeah. You'd say, well, Steve, I'd look at my wallet. Yeah, well, that'll tell you your name, but it's not going to tell you who you are. Or I'll look at pictures. It'll tell you where you've been and who you've been there with, but it's not going to tell you who you are. Well, then I'll have to rely on the people around me. Exactly. Now, the challenge with that is everyone is experiencing you different. We never experience the actual person. We only experience our thoughts about that person. So when people start to tell you who you are, you're only going to experience their thoughts about who they think you are. And so that is the very definition of self-image. Self-image is not what I think of me. It's not what you think of me. It's what I think you think of me.
Yep.
So it's just like how in a group of friends, how everybody has, that one friend that everyone has a different opinion about. Well, that means that none of you are experiencing that person for who they are. You're only experiencing your thoughts about that person. That's why you all have different opinions. So if we're reliant as children on mama and daddy and how they treat us and what we think they think about us and how we perceive other people's treatment of us, then our identity is false from the beginning. That's the birth of the false self. I call it the thesis. Every child in the first few years, they have no idea they're even alive. Now, this is why some people are going to get upset and they're going to get triggered. But listen, this is why I believe the story of Adam and Eve is an allegory for self-awareness. Here's what I mean. A child just is being, just like Adam and Eve was. They had no idea they were even alive, just like a baby. They're just in pure relationship with the creator, straight from the manufacturer. And then one day, self-awareness kicks in. It's like waking up out of a coma with amnesia. You are suddenly aware of yourself. Just like Adam and Eve. And now shame, guilt, close the door, don't look at me. All of that is now in your, and then it becomes the innate question of who am I? What am I? It's like you've been dropped off on a, you have no idea where you are, who you are, what this is. You just, love. So you have this innate question. When my wife wrote her thesis to get her master's degree, she had to pick a problem, pose a question, do a bunch of research, come up with a conclusion, and her thesis was the conclusion and all the research and cited sources. Well, every human being before the age 10 writes a thesis on themselves. And I just say to age 10 because that's what I found in all the people I've worked with, right? It's usually before 10. And it's based on what the news says. What you're black, this is what this means about you. You're white, this is what this means about you. You're a Catholic, this is what this means about you. Your daddy wasn't around, this is what this means about you. On top of that, as children, we only receive the action from our parents, never the intention. So we judge how they treat us based on the action rather than the intention. So from that adds to the research. The news adds to the research. The church adds to the research. The school adds to the research. And after I get enough information, I write my thesis on myself. This is who I am. This is what I deserve. And that becomes the foundation for which people build their life on. It's a false fucking premise from the beginning because it was made by a child.
I am in awe of what you said, and my brain is going a million miles a minute. You are so correct. And in any psychology book, you're going to see 0 to 6, right? They're going to say, oh, the most formidable years. Well, think about 0 to 6, like you just said. We have taken in all of this outside information, right? We don't know anything about anything. We've sucked it in, and we've learned about love. We've learned about lack of love. We've learned about attachment styles. We've learned about manipulation. We learned
trauma.
We learned how to get what we need in life, whether it's survival or whether it's, be nice. All of that, what you just said. And then you're right. We carry that forward and then we blame all that information for how our life is turning out until we discover we're naked and we have no clothes on and we need to put on a fig leaf, right?
Right.
Because what is the fig leaf? Metaphorically, it's our choice now to cover up. It's our choice to choose what kind of leaf we want to wear. And I think we take so long making the choice. At least I did. And I'm going to speak for myself. I took 45 years. I tell this story in my talk, in my baby book at 2 weeks old. My mother had written, She has a temper. She's very hard to satisfy. At 2 weeks old, I was labeled difficult and
Right.
unlovable,
Right.
essentially. And I went on for 45 years from 2 weeks old, believing I was unlovable and
Yeah.
attracted people who were able to mistreat me and, degrade me and abuse me.
Yeah.
So this theory, this thesis is fabulous. It's genius. And when and how do we, like you said, as life coaches, we give you steps. Everyone wants a roadmap and they want it like now. That's the thing.
Yeah.
The roadmap in life coaching, people come and they're like, okay, how do I like hop on a plane and get somewhere in an hour? Well, no, that's not how this roadmap works.
Yeah.
So your steps and your ideas, tell me, what do they start with? Someone listening right now, damn, I relate to you, Steve. What's my first step? What do I do? How do I choose different?
There's a couple of things, and none of them are easy. They're all simple, but none of them are easy.
Mm.
First, you have to be willing to accept full responsibility. And here's what that means. It's not about fault or blame, right? If I'm sitting here and then all of a sudden someone comes and turns off the lights and turns everything off and I'm sitting here in the dark, well, I got two choices. I could say, well, I could no longer do my work because I'm sitting here in the dark because someone turned the light off. Or I could recognize that I still have 2 arms and 2 legs, and I can walk my happy ass over to the switch and turn the light back on, regardless of who turned it off.
Nice.
Right?
Yeah.
So accepting responsibility is more about the response than it is what happened. Right? It's you're sitting in the passenger seat of a car going 100 miles an hour and backwards and getting ready to crash and spin out of control. But you're like, well, I'm not the one that put it in reverse. So you're just going to fucking crash, dummy. Right? Because I didn't do it. So, right? That's what children do.
Yeah.
Right? This is why Jesus said, become childlike, not childish.
Mm.
Big difference. Right? And so that's number one, being willing to accept full responsibility. Number two, you have to be willing to be wrong. Not wrong about what happened. When I was, I'm an open book. When I was a kid, I got molested. Somebody put their ding-a-ling in my mouth. I'm not wrong about that happening. I am wrong about what I made it mean about me. I am wrong about why I think it happened. That's all assumption.
Yeah.
I mean, I am wrong thinking that it had something to do with me and that it wasn't about that other person and whatever they were going through. I am wrong about that. So I have to be willing to be wrong. Number three, I have to be willing to put that fucking kid, that inner child, back on the witness stand. What pisses me off the most is watching people validate these inner childs. Oh, your mom didn't love you. Come here. Let me give you a hug. If you don't get your hands off of her, we're validating that child.
You're encouraging trauma.
Right. You have to validate the child's feelings. No, the hell you don't. Because if the same thing were to happen to your child or your nephew or your niece, would you walk up to them and give them the same conclusion that you came up with? Oh, let me tell you why your dad doesn't go to your baseball games. Because you ain't shit and he hates you. And he doesn't think you're worthy. I want you to go tell that to an 8-year-old. Go ahead. Walk up to an 8-year-old and tell it to him. Steve, I wouldn't do that. Why not? Because your adult mind innately knows that's not true. But you're just not willing to accept that for yourself because you're too committed to being right.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like walking into a courtroom and the judge is 8, the jury is 8, the prosecution is 8, the eyewitness is 8, and there's no defense attorney and no prosecution. Imagine that being, now our court system is screwed up as it is, but imagine it was that. How fair would those trials be? So we have kids convicting themselves and their parents, lifetime convictions, and sometimes the death sentence.
Yeah.
Based on the eyewitness testimony of a child who's too young to understand what's going on, who's too emotional to be rational, who takes everything personal, who's very black and white, who's very rigid, who believes everything is about them. That's the prosecutor. That's the judge. And here we are, 30, 40 years old, still upholding the conviction of a child? No. Put that child back on the stand and cross-examine the shit out of him and overturn that conviction.
I love that that perspective. I'm studying for my diploma right now in modern applied psychology. They talk about Plato, and what you're describing, that child is your emotional mind, and that's the instinctual thing we're born with. It's the first thing, like you said, we're self-centered, we're egotistical, we want what we want, we react, we're irrational. And then as you grow, you learn the rational mind. That's control. That's staying in the facts. That's don't be emotional. It's close up, protect yourself, guard yourself. So there's your rational mind. And the idea is to get from your emotional mind between the rational and the child mind, right? The emotional mind, the rational mind, to the wise mind, which is right in the middle. And the middle says, I don't need to react to everything. I don't need to be emotionally attached to trauma, emotionally attached to what people do to me and how they react to me. And then your rational mind is kind of cold and callous, and we don't want to stay in that side. That side is, I don't care. Nothing matters. Relationships don't matter. Connections don't matter. Here's the facts. That just the facts, ma'am, and I'm going to go forward. You get to the wise mind when you balance and blend the two together. That's when you're living your happiest life.
It's like I tell my clients, life is in the gray. Yep. Peace is in the gray. Because everything is relative.
Yeah.
Stop approaching life from a space of conclusions and go back to being childlike and be curious. When I'm doing my breakthrough sessions with my clients and, we're on a 3-day private retreat, it's like their own private landmark, right? I'm just breaking them down and building them up for 3 straight days. 72 hours with Steve Bacon to change your whole life, I promise you. Mm-hmm. And because it's relentless. And a lot of times I'll take them outside and I'll point to a plant. And I'll go, what's that? And they'll go, it's a plant. No, it's not just a plant. What type of plant is it? Where does it grow typically? Is it natural to this area? What type of conditions does it require? Well, I don't know. Well, then stop acting like you know everything about life. This is why your life is so damn stale. Because you just categorize everything and wake up every day and go, same shit, different toilet bowl. No, It's not. No, it's not. Today is just as new for you as it is for that child. You ain't never experienced today before. You haven't encountered 90% of the people that you're going to encounter today before. But you just start lumping people together and making conclusions. And now life seems real stale. Because you're no longer curious.
And you lose curiosity, you lose hope. If you're not curious, you have no hope. What do you have to look forward to? So now
Right.
you're on the hamster wheel of same old status quo. Life sucks. Poor me. I can't make anything different. Look at my situation. Look at what's happening. Look at the people in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember being there, and I know you remember being there, Steve.
Mhm.
It's like those moments of just feeling like you had no control over your
Yeah.
life. You thought, and I used to say that life happens to me. And I used to say, man, these are the cards I was dealt. Maybe next life I'll do better. Literally said that. And until I had this awareness, this self-awareness and enlightenment, it's like, what the hell? I went to a counselor one time and he said, Maureen, you talk like you're 80 years old. Because I did, because I believed it. I believed someone planned my life for me, and this is what I get. And I got 40 more years to deal with what everybody handed me. And that's
Mhm.
not it. That's not it, guys. Listeners, that's not it. If
Well,
you
that's
live
when
in
people
them,
and that's when people turn to suicide though,
yep,
right?
yep.
When I put that gun in my mouth and pulled the trigger, I was dead serious. Ha, no pun intended. Wait
Ah,
a minute.
cannot with you. No, you were almost dead serious. Ah,
That was good.
that was
Oh my God. It's the first time I ever said that, and that just tickled me to death. Ah, no pun intended.
I love it. Okay, we're
But
gonna let
listen,
enjoy himself for a moment. There you
I
go.
do. I do. I
You should.
do. I crack myself up. I really do. Um, but that in that moment, the only thing I saw going forward was more of what I've been getting for the last 18 years. Right? When someone gets to that point where they're ready to just end it all, it's kind of like when you play video games and when you're a kid and you were getting your butt whooped either by your cousin or the game and you just couldn't win. And you get so frustrated. Now, the definition or the motion of frustration is a signal to the brain that whatever you've been trying ain't working and you need to try something new. But also the subconscious mind's job is to look for the path of least resistance, the easiest path. So while you're sitting there in that frustration playing a video game, you're just like, turn the game off.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because that's the best idea you have at the time to end the frustration. That's suicide. It's the same thing. When life gets to the point where you're just so frustrated and no matter what you try, things won't change and your brain goes, kill yourself. That'll end it.
Yeah.
And then you believe that shit.
Yep. Yep. Because you think
I knew
you've reached your max, but you never
exactly.
reach your max because your max keeps raising.
Girl, there was a guy. It was a viral video going around on YouTube or Facebook of a dude that jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge and survived. I don't know if you saw that.
Yep.
Homeboy said, the minute I went over, it was instant regret.
Yep.
He says, I was all for it, standing up there. And the minute I left the platform, instant regret.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you were acting out of pure frustration.
No. No. You didn't see options. You were problem focused, not solution minded. And that's when your emotions decided for you rather than your rational, wise
There's
mind.
an innocence to that. And this is the part that people don't understand. There's an innocence to that. And I'm not talking about the judicial innocence. There's an innocence to everything we do. Every decision you've ever made, every mistake, every person you hurt, there was an innocence to it because consciously you didn't know any better. And people say, well, yes, you should have because you learned it and not to hurt people. I'm not talking about in your logical mind. Right. And your emotional mind, you didn't know any different. There are people who stay in abusive relationships knowing that this is not okay. How many times did someone get killed from an abusive relationship, but you heard them say in previous times, they're going to kill me? Right? So they knew that they should leave logically, but emotionally, they didn't know where else they were going to get that love and connection. Even though he's whooping my ass, at least I'm important to him. Even though he's whooping my ass, at least I'm not alone. Even though he's whooping my ass, at least I'm certain that he ain't going to leave me. People don't realize that and people can take this out of context if they want to, but they're only going to do it because they got triggered because they know it's correct. Even the person being abused is getting something out of it, or they wouldn't stay. And I know someone could take that out of context. So I'm asking to do the right thing and play the whole thing and not just play that one little line I just said and make a sound bite.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
Play the whole thing so people can understand the context. There's an innocence to the levels of consciousness. This is not an excuse. Again, context. But whenever I encounter someone who's racist, I can still love them because I know there's an innocence to their racism. Let me preface this. Let me put this in the proper context. On a level of consciousness is what I mean. It's not about judicial right or wrong. It's on the level of consciousness. If I know at the highest level of consciousness, I am a spirit being with an intellect inside of a physical body. I am not my hand. I am not my mind. I am the God with a small g observing it all. And I also know that my racist brother or sister who is attacking me is also a spirit being with an intellect inside of a physical body. Yet the level of consciousness that they are stuck at is the physical. To think that we are different somehow because I have more melanin and you don't. That to make the differences between us be about climate, evolutionary climate, to not have the intelligence to know that race was only invented 400 to 500 years ago. That before that, race wasn't even a thing. It was about where you were from. Did people notice? You never noticed Jesus didn't have a last name?
Right.
Well, it was Christ. No, that is not his last name. It wasn't Joseph Christ and Mary Christ. Christ is the word for Messiah, Savior. It was Jesus of Nazareth, Robin of Luxley. Right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the idea of race didn't even exist till 400 to 500 years ago. So to think that that's what separates us, it's like a strobe light, right? Like a strobe light. There's one light, but it's split into so many different ways just based on the frame put in front of it. It's one light, right? But then I take a frame and put it over the light, and it's got different cutouts so that I can make little individual lights out of this one light. And it's like the little red dot saying to the green dot, I'm better than you. Dummy, we come from the same light. What the are you talking about?
Nice.
The only reason why we look separated is for the entertainment.
You know what? I think it comes to belonging. I think the evolution of needing the belonging is what segregated everyone. I feel better
Absolutely.
in this group because we get each other. I feel better in this group because our skin is the same color. I feel more attached and accepted because we believe this religion. We believe this racist mentality. That's
Yeah.
where we need to stop doing all of this. And I'm happy we're now finally understanding about unity and a little more of the inclusivity. I think we're coming back to where we need to be. Like, let's see souls, not people anymore. Let's just look at each other and have empathy that we all came from the same damn place and went through the same damn things. It may look different, but it's the same thing.
And let me be clear, I'm not excusing racism.
Right.
What I'm saying is those people are on the lowest level of consciousness. So when I see them, I see children. I don't care how old they are. I see a child. So I have a different relationship
And we need
because
to
I
have
see a
that.
child.
And shouldn't we have that perspective with anyone in our lives that's just difficult, just come from that place of they are projecting something from their, well, we'll call it the Freudian, the id, which is ego, superego, id. That's exactly it. You're going back to that emotional mind and the values and beliefs you learned as that child.
Yeah, you weren't born racist.
Yeah,
You were
right.
taught to be racist.
Yep.
And I didn't mean to turn this whole conversation to the idea of race, but it goes back to the belief system and everything we've been talking about. You look at a child between the ages 0 and 6, they're not right. They don't know the difference
Yep.
until somebody tells them there's a difference.
Yeah. I have to tell you a cute story because we're gonna wrap this up a little bit. I'll tell you a cute story. So that just wasn't a belief in my house. Racism was not, and we were not raised with religion. So my parents were, we didn't practice anything. They decided we could decide for ourselves. Um, and so it was kind of cool because raising my kids, I didn't carry any of that forward. And my daughter came home one day from school and she had a best friend and she said, um, I forget what his name was, but anyway, she said, "Yeah, that's my best friend." And I said, "Oh, great." I said, "What's his name? Whatever." And she said, "That's my best friend. He's a brown boy." And it was the cutest thing ever because she saw him as just tan. She didn't see it as he's different from me. He's just a brown boy. And I thought that was the to me, I didn't see that as like because she hadn't been raised racist or we didn't segregate like you can't be friends with brown boys, you can't be friends with Hispanic, especially here in Arizona. We have a big pot of every race. And I went to a majority Hispanic high school. What's up? West Side and I remember, I wanted to go to a different school that my friend was going to, and I had to be bused to this other school. And my father's words to me were, I want you to stay there because I want you to learn how to get along with every single person and different types of people, because that's what life is going to be like, Maureen. And I think that was the best gift my father ever gave me because I have never seen color. I've never seen the outside of people as a way for me to say that's going to be a good person, that's not going to be a good person. And so, as we wrap this up, got 5 minutes to go here. I want to know, we have a funny question, fun question. I know you're going to have this one like locked down. But your first one is going to be in one sentence. What would you tell your 18-year-old self?
There's nothing wrong with you other than the fact that you believe something's wrong with you.
Nice. Nice. I like that. There's nothing wrong with you except that you believe there's something wrong with you. Ain't that the
Mhm.
truth? I love that. I think mine would be don't waste so much time learning the lesson. You
Mm,
know, we repeat these things over and over. We do the same thing over and over till finally we're like, oh, duh. I guess that's what I was supposed to learn. Well, in my case, I'm a slow learner. I mean, I'm like, really, I probably needed some tutoring on learning these lessons faster because I just kept repeating them until I got it. But I think that's being human. I think you just, when you're ready, as you said, when the student is ready, the teacher will show up. When you're ready, you'll get it.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I love your sentence. All right, here's the fun part. My new segment I'm doing on this to make it fun is take my money. Okay? And I want to know the thing that is the weirdest thing you've bought, the weirdest thing you've seen, or the thing that you will spend money on that you do not care that people judge you. Like, for instance, toilet paper in my house is a factor. My husband likes that cheap ass gas station toilet
Oh
paper.
no, scratch your
I
booty hole.
know, right?
Oh no.
Like one ply, you might as well use your
Oh
hand.
no.
Loves
The
it. Goes
devil is a lie.
I
No.
know. Goes through like half a roll, for each time. I am like, I want a pillow. Okay. You better bring me a pillow and it better be
Right.
like not 3 ply, like give me like 10 ply.
Yeah.
So take my money. I found today online on Amazon for $14.99 a yodeling pickle toy.
Hey, what?
A yodeling pickle toy.
What is a yodeling pickle toy?
It looks like a pickle and he yodels. You push a button, he's like, yodeling. I
Stop.
know, I know. Wow. You, you
Ah.
pickle inventor is sitting there laughing at us right now and being like, yeah, I'm laughing all the way to the bank with my millions from my yodeling pickle. So
Oh, that's hilarious.
what is the weirdest thing you've seen, you buy, or anything? Just give me something fun here. I know you can bring it.
I'm about to buy it because I just experienced it for the first time. And that's a bidet.
What? We're on. We have a theme here. We got a theme going on. Toilet
I've
paper.
never experienced a bidet until we were doing a retreat a couple weeks ago. And this house, this Airbnb in Sedona had one. And I sat down and I turned it on. And it was like,
I never knew.
it was like the heavens opened. It just parted ways. And I was just like, where has this been my entire life? My booty feels so clean.
Oh my gosh. I just got the title for your episode. I never knew my booty could be so fresh.
Hey, speaking of which, you ever notice those Charmin commercials with the bears? That entire commercial is about wiping your ass.
It is, and they sing about it.
They sing about it. The whole commercial is about ass and shit. The whole commercial.
The whole family's in on it.
The whole family is in on it, waiting for each other to come outside and like, look at my booty.
That is correct.
It's so clean. I'm gonna do that to my wife. I'm gonna come out the bathroom and look at my booty. It's so clean.
And then you have the one rebel child who has the toilet paper still on his ass.
Exactly. Like,
dude,
does anybody else get this whole commercial is about it? Or how about the pharmaceutical commercials who have longer lists of the shit that will go wrong with you if you take it versus the one thing it's supposed to fix?
that's
and they put all the happy images as they're reading off the side effects. So they got a mother pushing her child in the park and walking her dog while it's saying, this will cause anal bleeding. And this will also cause a proper heart attack. You will also develop shrinkage. One boob will become more lopsided than the other. One leg will become shorter. Your eye will fall out. Ask your doctor about what. No.
Like right now, you have a little
I'll keep my headache. Thank you.
rash on your skin. You take this and you got full-blown cancer, man.
Right.
Like,
but you don't have the rash anymore. It's like that beginning scene in Major Payne. I don't know if you see that movie with Damon
No.
Wayans back in the day, but he was like in the war and the dude got his legs blown off and Damon Wayne walks up to him and goes, Bubba, he says, you want me to take your pain off your legs? He said, and he took his finger and he broke it. And he was like, oh, my finger. He says, you're not thinking about your legs anymore, are you?
Feel horrible because you just reminded me when my kids would fall, I would do that. I would like, I'd like kind of like, not hard, but not, I didn't abuse my kids. Let's do a disclaimer here. But I would say, oh, your hand don't hurt anymore, huh? Or I'd say, do you want me to step on your toe? I used to do that. And that was actually in the movie. That cracks me up.
Because it works. Hey, you're not thinking about that anymore, are you?
You know what? That's why I'm a life coach, because I teach distraction methods and I've been doing it forever, apparently. So,
oh, that's funny.
God, Steve.
See, I can go all the way to the left with seriousness, and I can go all the way to the right and just be completely out of pocket.
Same. I love it because life should be fun. We should lighten things up. Doesn't always have to be heavy, guys. Just know that
It's all made up anyway.
Hell yeah. Laugh at yourself because everybody else will. Oh.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, my friend, I had such a blast. I hope you had a blast because I think you're freaking amazing. Let's give everyone your information, where to find your book, where to contact you for coaching, and
everything is at CoachSteveBacon.com.
Simple. Coach.
Everything is there. CoachSteveBacon.com.
See, you're like me. I'm like LifeCoachMarine.com. Everything is there. Books.
Everything is there.
All of it. Speaking, coaching. CoachSteveBacon.com. We're going to run out of .coms. All right, my love. Right. This is amazing. I am so happy. Everything happens for a reason. We had to get postponed because for some reason something happened last week. And so we had to meet today. I think our energy was just at a better level today. And everything is destined.
I really enjoyed this interview. One of my favorites.
Yeah. Was it lit?
It was lit.
See?
It was lit.
I'm on a roll. It's a second.
My sister from another mister. It was lit.
Right. That's my second lit interview comment this week. And I'm so freaking happy. No, you're the bomb, buddy. And guys, go get his book. It's called Start Here: 7 Steps to Living Your Best Life. Self-explanatory, only 7 steps. Keep it simple. And thank you, my man, for being on. And I'm so excited for everyone to meet you. Stay in touch. I think we're going to have to meet up somehow because we're both here in the Valley.
Before you move to Austin, let's do it.
Valley of the Sun, baby. Woo, woo.
I love it.
All righty. And listeners, don't forget to go to our doggy boutique at mydoggiseverything.net. Get some healthy, holistic treats for your friends. And my books also are available. My dog is more enlightened than I am. My dog is my relationship coach, where you will learn how to date and love yourself. And so you can get the right partner, the one that you deserve. So have a fabulous Wednesday, everyone. We will talk to you on the flip side next week.